Hi, so this is to record my video diary of my experience during the lockdown. So just to tell you a bit about myself, I'm a PhD student at the University of Edinburgh. I'm studying sociology and my research is about people's experiences of climate change activism if they have children or are acting for that reason. So to tell you a bit about my lockdown experiences, so I'm just going into the second year of my PhD. Just finished my board review, which went well. And so when the lockdown hit, it was March, obviously, and I was kind of stuck into tutoring, which I was enjoying on campus. I would go into uni a couple of times a week for that, and also pop in to meet friends for a coffee, PhD friends, and we'd chat about, our research and what's going well, what's not going well. And and it was just kind of nice. I'd walk everywhere, cycle everywhere. I would pop into town as well. Sometimes we'd go for lunch, meet friends in town for lunch, and I was just generally really enjoying life. And then once the lockdown hit, of course, it was really sudden, and it was weird at first. It was quite sort of, in a way, exciting because it was just all so new and novel. But then, of course, when it became clear of the restrictions and that we couldn't even go out more than once a day. I mean, I'm very active. I cycle and run everywhere, and I found it really hard to only be able to go out once a day. I love being outdoors. I love nature. I go running along the river and the canal. And I could only exercise once a day, so that was really horrible because that was the first sort of experience for me of feeling like, I don't know, freedom's been taken away. I never imagined that anything like this would happen, and it just felt really, really weird. So I struggled with the mental health issues associated with that, to be honest, because I run for mental health and I find that it helps me deal with stress. I've been running for like 25 years, so it's part of my life, and so I could still do that, but then, I would always go out for a walk as well. I'd walk to uni, so I was finding my reduction in activity quite difficult. I just clung on to running as my only form of exercise, and not being able to cycle or walk anywhere was annoying. And then as the lockdown proceeded, obviously I think what was really hard was that I didn't know when it would end, just this doom and gloom on the TV all the time, watching death figures and the media's obsession with death figures. It's just depressing, so that was kind of hard to deal with. So my boyfriend and I get really well, and he's been working at home, and I think he's been coped quite well with it. He hasn't struggled as much as me. Don't get me wrong, I haven't had like any serious mental health issues. I've just been a bit, I would say, that a flat mood, when you don't have any excitement, anything to look forward to. And then as the weeks went by, I would catch up with my friends on Zoom, but we all began to realise that that's just not enough. It's not the same. You don't pick up on the mood and excitement the same way, even if you're sat there with a drink and you're ostensibly talking about the same sorts of things. It's so different from being co-located. And so I really started to miss them, seeing them in 3 dimensions and being, able to interact with body language and facial cues and all those other things that actually not having makes a Zoom call extremely tiring, in my opinion. And then everything else was on Zoom as well, so meetings with my supervisors. I had to switch to online tutoring, so that was hard, adapting to using new technology and trying to get the students to interact was a bit of a disaster, to be honest. Well, not my fault, but generally the speed at which we had to adapt to learning to tutor online. We just didn't have any training. We just had to make it up as we went along. So I guess I'm sounding really negative. There must be good things about lockdown. Okay, so I'm an environmentalist, and I liked the cleaner air. I liked the fact that you could hear the birds sing because there wasn't the traffic anymore. I like being at home anyway. I enjoy working in a quiet space. I've never been one to enjoy particularly working with background noise or in a library because of, you know, someone's always creaking their chair or coughing or something. So that was, you know, in a way it's kind of nice to get up and just sit at your laptop straight away and not have to worry about finding a space in the library. Yeah, and you know, we had a couple of trips away which we had to cancel. I had a couple of running races, like a marathon and a half marathon, that were cancelled, so they were disappointing. Other stuff like a show, comedy show in Glasgow, so the cancellation of those was, you know what, it's necessary, I get it, you know. They weren't such a big deal. I think the thing that I've most struggled with is yeah, not seeing friends and not being able to be with friends. I'm not that close to my family. They're all down south, so I probably wouldn't have seen them anyway, but I'm quite close to my sister and I haven't been able to see her for ages, so that's been difficult. I think I would have definitely have seen her in the last 4 months without the lockdown. I'm just looking at my notes here because I did write down a couple of things that I don't forget. Oh, work-wise, so yeah, I've started my field work. I started that during the lockdown, so I'm doing online interviews. And you know, they're fine. It's saving me on travel, it's saving me on costs and time. It's been quite convenient. I've been able to conduct 7 interviews already since I started my recruitment campaign, so that's great. I'm really pleased with that. But there's definitely something lost, swap hands, in the communication. With an online interview, you don't get to build trust the same way. You don't have eye contact to... It's harder to read what people are thinking. You know, you don't know whether they've paused to think or whether they have finished talking, or yeah, whether they're upset even. You know, you're talking about the climate crisis. Sometimes you need to be attuned to people's, obviously, people's emotions, and yeah, I found that really hard. So, and the university hasn't really given us any training on how to conduct interviews online. So, you know, I guess we just have to be independent and find our own resources. And then what else? Yeah, so now lockdown is easing in Scotland, and it's, yeah, today's the 15th of July and we're allowed to, well, we're allowed, pubs and hospitality and stuff like that are opening. I'm super excited. Well, pubs did actually open beer gardens only just last week. So my boyfriend and I did go for a drink in a pub beer garden, which was brilliant. That was on Saturday, and really enjoyed, you know, not being a change of scene. Oh, that's the other thing as well. Just being confined to, you know, you're not supposed to go further than 5 miles from your home. I mean, I've travelled all over the world, and I'm quite an adventurous person, I'd say, and I've always enjoyed exploring bits of Scotland, you know, beautiful parts of the country, and not being able to just jump on a train for half an hour and go and do that's been annoying, really annoying. But I get it. Like I say, I understand why, but it doesn't make it any easier to cope with, to be honest. Yeah, and now lockdown's easing, so we've got a lot more freedom. We can go to, you know, pubs and stuff. Haven't made any arrangements yet, hoping to this weekend. But a lot of my friends have left Edinburgh. A lot of them are from other countries and they've all gone back. They went back months ago, many of them. And so, yeah, it's been, Edinburgh feels a bit empty of friends, to be honest. So when the, you know, pubs are opening, and I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to see my friends in the pubs. I think a lot of them are coming back maybe in August. Yeah, so I would say that I'm optimistic that Nicola Sturgeon's got the virus under control. Infection rates and death rates are really low now, but you know, there's this kind of sense of scaremongering. I feel that we've got to be super vigilant still. And on the one hand, she's saying, you know, go and enjoy yourself in a pub or seeing, you know, another part, having a staycation. But on the other hand, she's really instilling this kind of sense of fear about, and safety about, catching and spreading the virus. You know, I'm not criticising that, because it's really helped bring down the infection rate much more than in England. Different strategy, but at the same time, it's quite hard to go out and relax when you're told that you've got to be super careful and, you know, don't forget that the virus is still out there and all this sort of stuff. So I hope that people do still, I think people will still enjoy themselves. And there's, last thing I want to say is I think there's still quite a lot of uncertainty about the future. Like, we have provisionally got our cycling holiday in the Outer Hebrides rescheduled for August now. We rebooked because we couldn't get a refund on the flights from Lothian, so we just moved them. But I'm slightly nervous about the possible hostility we might encounter on some of the smaller islands in the Outer Hebrides, because I've heard, particularly you know, Barra and Vatersay, that they're quite, there's a small vocal minority of locals who don't think that the island should be opening up because they've had like 0 COVID rates. So I don't think, I'm sure they're just keyboard warriors and they won't be hostile towards us. But, you know, we're going to be cycling through, wearing masks, using hand sanitizer. We're not going to be coming into contact with anyone apart from in our bed and breakfasts. And I'm sure they'll be implementing all the right measures to keep everyone apart. So I just think it's interesting, people's risk perception can be a little off sometimes, when particularly my views on climate change and how that is just, it is a real threat to the planet, and it's happening already, and yet people don't seem as remotely half as worried about that as coronavirus. Even though, you know, at the end of the day, coronavirus, 80% of cases are asymptomatic. So, and yeah, okay, it's still a killer, but so is air pollution. Why aren't people not driving? You know, where's the moral panic around air pollution and driving and the carbon emissions from driving? Why are we you know, moralising about people not wearing masks in public, or, you know, these debates that are going on social media? I'm kind of digressing, but I think, you know, climate change and COVID are related, because they are ultimately created by an unsustainable use of planetary resources. The coronavirus, they think, as a zoonotic disease, was created by being in too close proximity to wildlife. Whether or not they were from these markets in China, I don't know, but certainly encroaching on natural habitats and being, you know, perhaps eating bushmeat, and, you know, poor people being forced to eat bushmeat because they don't have access to the sorts of foods that other people enjoy. You know, all these things, and of course climate change from our unsustainable use of fossil fuels and deforestation and all the other damaging impacts that we're responsible for. So yeah, it's just really weird to feel this uncertain about the future. I don't know, with coronavirus, could there be a second wave? You know, how will it affect my research? I don't feel worried about my own health, to be honest with you. That's something I've just not mentioned in this video, but I don't, never say never, but I'm quite well. I'm generally in really good health. You know, the thing that's worried me most about coronavirus is its impact disproportionately on poorer people. you know, and in Edinburgh there are pockets of deprivation, and I see them, and I live up the road from Gorgie, which is a relatively poor area, and you know, and I know that, for example, people there are way more vulnerable to this virus than the likes of me, who's working from home and I can afford organic veg and things like that. Yeah, so I guess to conclude this video, I would say that yeah, lockdown's been really hard, both personally, for my research, for my social life. Luckily it's not impacted my relationship. We still get on really well, no arguments. We've got a 2-bed flat, so we don't we have our own space to work in. We don't have children, so no responsibilities, don't have to homeschool, I don't have any caring responsibilities. So, you know, I'm really one of the lucky ones, very much. Yeah, so it's interesting watching what's going to happen, but I don't feel scared. I just feel kind of slightly pessimistic about winter coming up and possible, you know, new lockdown measures, the impact on the economy, God knows. So anyway, I've waffled on for 16 minutes. I think it's about time I stop there. Thank you for listening.